Large market cap Singapore-listed companies like SATS and CapitaLand Ascott Trust have clinched top spots on key corporate governance scorecard. The Singapore Governance and Transparency Index looks at factors like the timeliness of financial reports and transparency of internal processes. Ground handling and catering company SATS retains its pole position in the general category this year. Companies in this category performed the best in disclosures related to shareholder rights, while CapitaLand-related entities swept all top 3 spots in the REIT and business trust category. They were among nearly 500 SGX-listed companies given scores by accounting body CPA Australia and the Singapore Institute of Directors. And to help us understand this better, we have with us Professor Lawrence Loh. He's the director of the NUS Centre for Governance and Sustainability, which is one of the key SGTI partners. Prof, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you. What was most significant to you about this year's report?
Well, in this index, we have a holistic evaluation model. And among the 5 pillars, perhaps 2 stand out quite a bit. The first is actually the rights of shareholders. I think what is happening is many companies are now engaging measures to protect the investors. I think this is very good. And secondly, the most important stand up is actually our sheer momentum towards having sustainability in companies. So companies are now more diligent in engaging stakeholders.
All right. Now, the SGTI scored nearly 500 companies, right? Now, are there companies listed on the SGX that were not included in this study, and why not?
And first of all, this is a full market review. In other words, it's not a sample. But of course, there are some technical reasons why some companies are excluded. For example, they may be delisted, they may be newly listed, or they could be secondary listings from other exchanges in other parts of the world. So we do not put them in because it's just technically not possible and it's not appropriate.
Okay. But in terms of the findings and the survey, it meets all the requirements, it's full?
Yes, I would say it's statistically robust.
Yes.
It's actually a full census, not a sample.
Right, yeah. Okay. Now, speaking of robust, the score was 70.9 this year, right? We understand the maximum is 143. Yeah. So our score seems to be close on the halfway mark, which is 71.5. What does it mean? Does it mean that we just got middle of the class?
No. If you look at the score, the base score is 100 points.
Okay.
So we have various indicators, about 100 of them, and we pitch them against each of these criteria. And then what happened is we have every company score, and then we take the average. So in other words, the 100 base score and 43 additional points are bonus. And on the other hand, we also have penalties. So the theoretical maximum is 143, but in essence, it's actually 100 points for the basic structure of what we evaluate.
I see. So our score of 70.9 is pretty good.
I think it's good, although we cannot compare across years. I mean, this is the highest we ever got. We actually move from strength to strength.
Okay. Now, do bigger companies tend to do better? I mean, some of the top awards were won by the bigger companies. And how can smaller companies improve?
I think definitely. Over the years, we discovered something which we call size effect. In other words, the larger company will perform better in corporate governance. And I think this is perhaps natural because sometimes larger company, actually ironically, they may seem to be difficult to govern. But on the other hand, they have access to more resources, they have stronger leadership, and of course, being big, they mature, and there are systems in place in the company to help them govern the various parts of this entire corporation.
So smaller companies who don't have equal resources, right? What can they do?
Of course, nothing is cast in stone. They can actually learn from the big company, and I think it's just a process of maturation. And in fact, nothing is doomed. There are many small companies, nevertheless, who are actually on par, if not better, than most large companies.
Sure. Let's talk about shareholders. How do they benefit from knowing this, right? How can they read and understand the SGTI to help them make decisions?
Of course, first of all, it's an aggregate index. In other words, it's a totality of all the company. But companies can actually use the index for benchmarking. In other words, they look at the overall score and see how they perform, because we do have the methodology, a self-assessment scheme that they can access through our website, and then they can actually do the scoring, comparing with overall and as well as their respective sectors. So in other words, this comparison will lead them to know where they are in terms of the best practices and where they should actually focus their improvement.
All right. Professor, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you on board. And that was Professor Lawrence Loh, Director for the NUS Centre for Governance and Sustainability.